My name is Christy Busby, and you are about to listen to the next episode of my podcast called F.A.T.E, From Atheism to Enlightenment. So come on in, join me. We're going to talk about it all, from atheism to enlightenment. Alrighty, guys, here we go. Get ready, and welcome to your F.A.T.E. All right, and we are rolling. Ladies and gentlemen, I have Erika Frost joining me today. I'm super excited that she took the time to do so. She was a paranormal investigator. She's had near-death experiences. She's a spiritual healer. I don't even know all the great things that she can do. I'm going to let her tell you herself. But Erika Frost, welcome to your F.A.T.E. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm good. Thank you, Christy.
Well, I saw Erika at a talk over the weekend, and once I heard you, I knew immediately that I wanted to get you on the show. I'm completely fascinated by your story, and I guess the first question I have is, I'd love to talk a little bit about your paranormal investigations that you spent time doing in the beginning of your journey, I would think. But can you tell me everything about that? How long you did it? What was it like? Your experiences?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a journey. I didn't seek out becoming a paranormal investigator. I'm a big believer that everything does happen for a reason. Some would say coincidence, but I was just crossing paths at the right time, and I was on the Queen Mary there to see a comedy show, ironically, to support a friend. And she knew that I had a background or an intuitive connection to the paranormal world. And she wanted to investigate after the show. And it was about, 2 a.m. that the show ended. And then we were all off on our adventures. And I was like, I don't know. I don't want to go. The Queen Mary is very haunted. And so,
Not to interrupt, but I'm an assistant director. I work on films, and I literally just shot a pilot on the Queen Mary a couple of years ago. So I can attest to the scariness vibe that it had. It definitely has a different energy to it. So anyways, go ahead. I just want you to know, it's something to experience over there. And it's like caught in this old 1950s time capsule almost. It's really amazing, that boat. But anyways, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. No. It really is. It is like you're stepping back in time weirdly, and just, So we went down to as my friend used to like to say, the pit of hell.
Yeah.
And we went stumbling around through the bottom belly of the Queen Mary and got locked in some rooms, and one thing led to another. And the manager on duty happened to be not the normal manager on duty, because they had called out. He happened to be the chief financial officer of the ship. So a very bigwig person at the top of the top. And he let us out of the room, and he said, "Oh, you ladies should not be in there." And my friend's such a fast talker, and she's like, "I know, but it's so haunted." And I was kind of standing there like, "Yeah, I know. I don't want to get in trouble." And then, one thing led to another conversation. And he said, we used to have these investigative tours led by a psychic. And I knew my friend what she was going to say in that moment. And because I never referred to myself as a psychic per se, but she said, "Oh, well, you have the best, psychic here standing in front of you." And he looks at her and he goes, "Oh, you?" And she goes, "No, her." And I was like, ah. So, one thing led to another. That's how I ended up on the Queen Mary. That was in 2005. And then I've traveled around the country and investigated all different locations, but the Queen Mary's always been my hub.
How long did you spend doing that? How many years were you in that world?
Yeah, just under a decade. So I left the Queen Mary, I think it was 2013, 2014. And quote unquote retired from ghost hunting. And then it just really gave me a solid foundation on the darker aspects, and maybe the lower realms of are interdimensional aspects. And so I left and wanted to become more connected to the lighter aspects.
Can you tell me about what you learned about the darker, lower vibrational aspects of what you encountered out there? Like, can you tell me any good stories, or what was like the most like impactful, like, wow moment or investigation you had?
Yeah. Gosh, it's funny. I am working on a book around this exact topic, but there's so many. So we could have hours of discussion on this because there's just so many.
Then we need to bring you back, and we will actually do just that when you get ready to promote your book, like, or any other time, like, because I absolutely love, I am fascinated by this type of interaction with the higher, lower realms and people that can tap into that. It is just fascinating. So anyways, so what can you tell us about the stories on the Queen Mary or elsewhere of those?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so not to deter anyone from investigating or going out there to seek their own truths and to seek their own experiences, I always just say use discernment and be mindful that what we're dealing with is unclear. It's not solidly black and white. So we never know intent. We never know exactly what it is. What I can tell you that I've learned is that there's absolutely a positive and a negative. It's like a battery. You have to have both. And on the Queen Mary, there was absolutely both. And so there were some moments that were very light and bright and fun and like Casper of the Queen Mary, so to speak. John and Jackie, those are the two probably most well known, and they're fun. I don't believe that necessarily they're stuck or that they can't go back and forth.
So and Jackie are two of the spirits that you would regularly come in contact on the ship, and they would communicate you, and and they were of higher, lighter energy as far as what you would encounter there. Were you able to glean what their background was and why they were there, or? Well,
yeah. So, so John actually was he's an historical. He's the one that we have the most history on. He was an 18-year-old crew member who unfortunately got stuck in watertight door 13. And that's how he passed. So he was quite young. He was 18 and quite traumatic. However, he was so playful and so interactive, and he was 18. He loved the ladies. And then later discovered that he really especially loved blondes. So he would have loved you. So if you go there, you could go have an interaction with him. He did all kinds of funny things. Like, got a little fresh at times. Like women were like, "Oh, I thought somebody just touched me on the butt," and they turn around to the person behind me. He's like, "I didn't do anything." So I'm like, "Guys, walk with your hands upward, because otherwise you're going to be accused of being fresh." And so, we had a lot of fun. And then Jackie, she's not a documented death, but she's been experienced by so many different people outside of myself, just on investigations, and historically known as one of the spirits there. And she's about 7.5-year-old little girl, believed to have drowned in the second-class swimming pool, although not confirmed. And while it's a seemingly very sad story, she's very playful. So she doesn't seem bothered or upset or that she's looking for any closure. She's just really very playful. So people will hear reports of her giggling and things like that. And she's interacted with us too by using like trigger objects and asking her to come and play. And gosh, the stories just go on and on. I was there for almost 10 years. So it's just,
girl,
it was a very unique opportunity.
Yeah, there is a book there for sure.
Yeah.
Amazing. How, as far as doing your paranormal investigations throughout your years, what percentage of the time did you feel that it was actually a paranormal spirit situation, or maybe it is a squeaky floor, a wind, a rat, a random light from a tower that you didn't see prior to that. Like, how often were you pleasantly surprised that you were actually tapping into a real deal paranormal situation and not just a bump in the night or whatever?
Yeah, that's a great question because the ship obviously was alive with people and it was running and operating. And so, which is one reason why the investigations I led were all late night to help with some of that. And then I really, I'm very spiritual, but I'm also very logically minded and can't help but be analytical and think that way too. So I was always questioning what we were connecting with and I would bring equipment as things progress. When I first started, there wasn't a lot of tools out there. There was not a plethora of ghost hunting TV shows and all this stuff. It was still, pretty pioneer. I was in the very beginning stages. So kind of learned as we went. So I would say towards the end, I got so familiar with what was paranormal and what was normal of the ship that I could easily call it out. And I would say, I did 4 investigations a week for 10 years. Queen Mary sold tickets. And so they had kind of like a fun Hollywooded fictitious tour. And then they had the actual authentic
Investigation.
It started out as dining investigation. Yeah. It started out as dining with the spirits. And it was a very kind of fun, high end. We had dinner first and got dressed up. And then after dinner, would go down into the realms of hell. and so, yeah. So it started out that way. And then the Queen Mary saw opportunity to offer experiences for people while also creating a venue for themselves. And it was kind of a very like symbiotic experience. And for me, it was really important that my mission in even saying yes to this opportunity, because I almost said no, is that it kind of circles back to my near-death experience. And I felt like if I could help somebody see that there's more here to this world or our life than just the physical, then this would be well worth wherever this adventure took me, because I had no idea what would happen. And that was what I was looking for every time I took people on these adventures was, can I offer other perspectives?
I love that because I feel that same need to kind of going through what I went through in my life. I kind of feel like I need to tell my story and tell other people's stories to enlighten them that there is so much more going on than what we think there is.
Yeah.
I never ever probably would have entertained anything like me feeling like I was a spiritual being or that there was anything other than you live, you're very material, you die, your body decays. There's nothing beyond that. That was my camp for most of my life. I never believed in a higher realm, a higher being, spirituality, religion, none of it. So for me, it's been very transformative. And I'm out here you put yourself out here in the hopes that you will change somebody's mind or give them a different perspective or give them inspiration to do their own research on figuring things out. There's lots of stuff out there that you can get into and learn about if you just kind of stop being so distracted by, I don't know, your phone or whatever you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, these days there's a lot of distractions for sure.
I think by design.
Yeah. I think you're right. That's probably a whole other conversation.
That's a whole
right?
other podcast. So, well, tell me a little bit more about the paranormal interactions you had, good, bad, ugly. What kind of things did you see? And tell us some stories. I love it.
Oh gosh, there are so many stories. I was there, like you had mentioned, for just under a decade. And then on top of that, I traveled around the country and was contracted to other projects to help uncover different things that might be happening. So when I was with the ship, I had about it was 4 nights a week. We started with one night, then it went to 2 nights very quickly. Then it went to 3 nights, then it went to 4 nights. So 4 nights a week for almost a decade. That's a lot of stories.
Oh my God, yeah.
And I can say without a doubt that there wasn't one investigative experience that didn't have something incredible happen, whether it was horrifyingly dark and scary or it was light and fun. The Queen Mary Head Bowl has, I guess, because she's still there. And there's a lot of history there.
I mean, it's fascinating. So what else? Anything you want to tell us? And on the other side of the coin, you have John, who's a lovely ghost. Did you have somebody else who was of darker vibrational energy that would frequent your investigational areas?
Yes, we did. And this particular person was not a documented death. And there's a lot of theories floating around out there about who he is and how he came to be. And I have some of my own, even in connection with a little child energy. But that's a whole long story. So there's a being by the name of Henry. He was believed to have been a crew member as well, who worked in the boiler room. He was a boiler worker, and there was a boiler explosion, and he was burned to death. Is the idea, though we don't have records to support that I'm aware of. He is not nice. I've had him attack many of my guests when I was there. In various different ways.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I was going to say, what do you mean by attack? Okay. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
He has scratched people where, like, on the back, impossible for them to reach type experiences. We're standing in groups and everybody's holding hands and we're doing a communication session. And so all of a sudden somebody's like, oh my gosh, my back is burning. Like, what's happening? I feel like something's searing my skin. And so we stop and we look. And so there's that. I've witnessed a woman full on get knocked over and pinned down. And I had a security guard with me and an assistant because I used to take anywhere from 30 all the way up to 100 people through the ship a night. And it's a lot of people to be mindful and take care of. So I always needed a little help. And so when this woman was pinned down, the first thing that goes through your mind, and I don't judge at all. The mind is a very powerful thing. I get that. And I'm also a huge advocate, by the way, for mental health. So I recognize that there is an intersect between the spiritual, supernatural, and the mind body. However, a lot of guests, and back then it was like, oh, she's making it up. She's just being dramatic, whatever, right? Well, I pulled my assistant and the security guard aside and asked them, could you please help her so I could keep going with the group? And so they did, but she couldn't get up. And so they had to physically lift her, under one arm, right? Each person. These are two big, strong men, by the way, who helped her out. And she was not a big woman. She was a fairly petite woman. And they helped her out. And so we were in the boiler room and they were she was being dragged out by them, her feet dragging. And after they exited the boiler room, they went into the exhibit hall and she started getting lighter and lighter and lighter until she was able to walk again. And so later at the end of the night, I pulled them aside and I said, so what do you think happened? And they were like, Erika, we do not know, but what we can tell you is she weighed about 600 pounds when we started leaving the room. And then when we got out of the room and into the lighted area and exhibit hall, she was 100 pounds. Wow. So you think, okay, well, that's an interesting observation. I don't think the mind can do that. No. And I mean, honestly, Chrissy, there are so many, many stories like that I could share.
What is your personal darkest, scariest story that you've ever had where you're like, that was the most impactful, the scariest one?
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. I mean, for me, the life-changing moment when I realized that I never thought of this as fun and games, but I was always not afraid to play with fire, so to speak. I was always that person and that kid that was like, don't touch the fire. And I'm like, oh, let me see how hot it is. But I was like, okay, lesson learned. So I was in Louisiana helping a team film a show, and we were supposed to investigate the Myrtles plantation. Now, I was brought on to the team to help, from a spiritual perspective, hear the different things and have them set up in an area where they might be able to capture the most evidence. And we arrived and we had another area to investigate before going to the Myrtles plantation. That ended more quickly than anticipated. So we ended up at the Myrtles plantation a day early. Well, they were not ready for us. So they sent us to a motel down the street, which sometimes can happen as you've done production work.
Yep.
That can happen. So we ended up at this, this little motel could have been a horror movie all on its own, just prefacing. So you could kind of get a visual. And I had done a lot of contract work like this for various different one-offs or different TV shows. And this particular group, which I was very used to, it was all men with the exception of one woman production helper. And she, for whatever reason, they didn't want to put us together in the same hotel room. And I was thinking in the back of my head, well, I know I'm this one that's supposed to hold everybody like safe and spiritually sound, but can you please put her in my room because this place is really creepy. I might be more afraid of the living than I am of the dead at this point. And they put us in the rooms back to back at least. And so we settled in for the night, and something intuitively was like, this place is not okay. I just can't sleep. Whatever it is that's here, it doesn't feel good. And keep in mind, I think Louisiana is a beautiful place. However, when I got off the airplane in Louisiana, it felt it. There's so much history there, heaviness, darkness, not because it's evil necessarily, but there's a lot of heavy energy, sad energy historically that all connects. Mm-hmm. And so it was late in the evening and I was in kind of a lucid state at the hotel on my bed. And all of a sudden I'm sitting there and kind of half awake, half asleep in this lucid state. And I see the room start to shift, like in the structure of where and I've experienced that before. It's how sometimes I get information. So I was sort of just going with it, thinking, okay, well, this is an important piece to the next step, which I thought was preparation for the next day, and which was Myrtles Plantation. So I was sitting in that space, and all of a sudden, coming flying out of what was considered the bathroom area of the hotel room was this dark ball of energy, and it shot out so fast. And before I even had a chance, it flew into my mouth. And I felt like I was choking and I fell backwards into my bed. I felt like I was being held down. And all I could think of was scream at the top of my lungs, just scream, just get something out, because I was conscious enough to know that Katie was on the other side of the wall.
Right.
And I was like, if I scream loud enough, maybe she can do something. I don't know what, but come get me something. Yeah. And so I just fought with all my might to scream. And when I screamed, this blackness shot out. It dissipated into like little pieces. I sat up and immediately, without even thinking about, my body just fell off the bed to my knees, and I started praying to God, asking God, please help me, because you gave me these abilities. You put me here. Now, how am I going to deal with this? And what is this? And just for your knowledge and the listeners' knowledge, I was not brought up religious in any capacity, or even spiritual for that matter.
I was going to ask
so
you
the
that
fact
question.
That
I was going to ask you just that question. Yes.
I look back at it and I think I'm still in awe of it, because it was such an instinctual, like almost biological need to get on my knees, hands and knees on the ground, and pray to God and ask for help. It was so outside of my comfort zone. And it really shook me up to the point that when we all met up that morning, the director pulled me aside, who was also the head of the team, and he said, "What's wrong with you?" And I proceeded to tell him, and it definitely changed the tone for the rest of the time that we were in Louisiana.
Yeah. Yes. That
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
intense. Did it
Yeah.
make you fearful to interact in the spiritual realm, thinking maybe you had opened a portal of darker vibrational stuff that could come back to you at some point? Did they give you hesitation anymore about working in these entities in this paranormal world where maybe that could happen again, where something of the darker side could come for you again? And how did you deal with that fear if that's what happened?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a great question. And to answer that in a very short way, yes, it did give me a lot of pause. It was like, okay, there's this now. And I had no idea. So yeah, it did. It also made me really mindful of information to bring to guests. I took what I did on the Queen Mary very seriously in the sense that I felt like I needed to protect those that traveled through the ship with me. And while I prefaced everything with, I don't have all the answers, I did feel a sense of protection over everybody, whether they believed or not. And so it did give me a moment of pause. And then it gave me the idea that I needed to dig deeper into what exists. And having the scientific mind that I do, what we can certainly say is, well, it's like life is like a battery. And this other side is also like a battery. There's a negative and a positive, and for everything to work, both have to
Yeah.
exist. And then what I started seeing more is that you can't have light without the dark and all of that.
Polarity, duality. That's what the 3D, it's black and white, up and down, left and right, good and bad. It's
Yeah.
what we do in 3D land for sure.
Right.
Now, tell me how you got from paranormal to spiritual healer. What was that journey like? How did that happen?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it circles to what we just talked about, having that awareness and that sort of awakening, if you will. I I started realizing that I wanted to understand and go deeper into my own spiritual journey and healing. And for me, I know it's going to sound maybe to your listeners are a little odd, but it would to me had I not experienced this. But 10 years of working with this type of heavier density energy, it starts to weigh on the body and it starts to weigh on the mind. Not that I didn't obviously have my own set of issues and traumas and challenges as a child growing up, as we all do, right? I don't think there's one person on this earth that escapes childhood without a trauma or
Nope.
two.
It's true.
Yeah, so you intersect that, right? That maybe might not have already been healed with the multiple traumas of energetic beings, because there's a lot of theories on this, so we don't know for sure, but I certainly kind of subscribe to the idea that if somebody is still stuck, for lack of a better term, there's emotional trauma, that human brain trauma that hasn't been healed, right? The soul, from my experience, is bright, light, free. We know how to get home. We want to go home. But if we don't deal with those heavier density aspects of our human self, it can potentially, I don't know, I'm not going to say 100%, cause us to, for lack of a term, get stuck
Yes.
in spirit
Yep.
form, right? So all of that then can weigh on us too. So I started having some of my own health issues. I started some challenges with my mental health. It's really fascinating. There's something I've been working on and theorizing. There's no documented deaths of anybody like dying from a ghost attack, right? No one's ever died from that. However, there have been a plethora of documented deaths of people going crazy and either killing themselves or killing somebody else and then themselves, who have been subjected to constant paranormal. So I'm so fascinated by all this because I've had some colleagues even who have succumbed to that. I've had my own challenges and questioned, am I going insane? Like, what is happening? So I quote unquote retired from this particular aspect of paranormal investigating and decided to go on a healing journey. Went to Peru to become a yoga teacher, became a Reiki master teacher, which I always use that term very lightly because I don't believe that with Reiki, there's ever an end to learning. So even though we reach a master level, it's not the end. So
it's funny you
yeah.
say that because as far as my own journey goes, I think I'm always going to be healing. I don't think I'm ever going to not be healing. I've been doing it for a decade and I don't think it's ever going to end. I'm a lot better than I was even 2 years ago. I'm like skyrocket better. But I think once you step on something like this, it's like you're on it forever, like spiritual journey, healing journey, they kind of coincide. You never get off the ship.
Yes, that is very true. It's true. I mean, I'm a big believer, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And in that, how do we have a human experience except but to be human, which means we want to integrate all aspects of ourselves to become the best, most brightest version of ourselves. And so many of us, and myself included, I've compartmentalized and separated, like the spiritual aspect of myself is over here and the human aspect of myself is over here. And then my mind is over here. And no, we need to integrate. And I do think, I mean, like you said, which is a whole other conversation, the distraction, we're stepping into an integration time like no other. So the distractions are there to avoid some of that. But yeah.
I mean, I think I'm going to have other episodes where we get into things like why we're so distracted and what is behind that distraction. But yeah, it's true. I know for me, since I've stepped on my spiritual path, I have changed so dramatically in what I watch, who I align with, who I talk to, how much time I spend alone. I spend so much time alone now that it's insane. And I enjoy my solitude more than I ever have. I'm a much different animal since I've stepped into what I call my path. I don't know. I've gone through something and now I'm still trying to figure out who I am and where it's taking me. It's one of the reasons why I'm doing this is to kind of be a student of my own journey. Let's learn together, and I'm going to document it and put it out there and see if I can't help other people with their own journeys in life. Life's hard, man. It's hard.
No, I agree.
It's so difficult these days. So please tell me, how did you come to find that you had spiritual gifts, and how do they show themselves to you, and how did this happen to you?
Yeah. Well, so it's two parts. When I was 6, my biological mom passed away from cancer. And as a child, you don't question anything really, right? So 3 days after she died, I had an experience with her. And it was through a dream state. But for me, it was, and I mean, to this day, I can remember it as clear as if I were 6. And she showed me where she went, and she said she hasn't left, and this is the best way that she can be in my life, and that I'm not alone. Like all this stuff, and she showed me where she went. She even took me there, this cute little house in the mountains. And now I'm 6, so I don't know a lot about my mom, really. I don't know her backstory. I don't know what she loved. I didn't know any of that. So the things that she was showing me were things I couldn't have made up. And so I share that because fast forward to when I'm 28, all of a sudden, everything that she showed me when I was 6, I realized was 100% true in her. She loved Colorado. She loved hiking in the mountains. That was her sanctuary. She lived like that. It was everything that she showed me. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then I had other experiences with her throughout my life. But then fast forward from 6 to 20, I had a car accident, a fatal car accident from an undiagnosed health condition, and had a near-death experience. I died and then came back. So I used to joke and say I knocked the psychic sense into me from that.
Please do explain your near-death experiences. I think these are some of the most impactful. They are, when I listen to people that have near-death experiences, it just makes me feel so much less fear about passing on, because you know that this person, number one, is speaking their truth. And that is the most important, piece of it, is that you know when someone is speaking their truth. And a lot of these near-death experiences, they have so many threads that are so similar. The experiences are so similar that it is not coincidental. It is a transition that happens to all of us. And we will all do this transition. We are all fellow travelers to this transition. So please do. I want to hear all about this near-death experience. I love it.
Okay, absolutely. I'm happy to share. And so I just want to preface, because like I said, I wasn't taught religion necessarily when I was a kid. I didn't grow up in a spiritual household. I will preface and say that I was a spiritual child because of my mom passing, and I wanted to understand a little bit more innately. So I was always seeking truths, or go to Sunday school once in a while. Or the only religion I actually proclaimed as a child was when I was in high school. I was Buddhist and practiced Buddhism and had my go home zone and all of that. So that was the most that I understood. And I'm a 20-year-old basically kid at that point, driving my car and not thinking of anything other than the song that was playing.
Sounds about right.
and running late to an appointment I had. So as I'm driving my car, it was as simple as taking a breath, really. 1 minute I'm driving my car. The next minute I am sitting at a picnic table amongst rolling hills of grass. I say a park, but it wasn't just a park. There was no end to it. It was just the most greenest grass I've ever seen. And the picnic table was the most, I don't even know, but woody, sparkly, like everything was vibrant times a billion. And so I'm sitting at this picnic table directly across from a man who felt so familiar. And I looked at him, and he looked like a modern day Rod Stewart. He had brown kind of feathered back hair and golden eyes and sparkly and funny. And he looked at me and he goes, "You know who I am?" And I said, "Jesus." And I was like, why would I say Jesus? It was Jesus. He was 100%. And he just kind of laughed. He was so funny. He's like, "Yes." And he goes, "You know where you are?" And and I was like, "No, but I'm here with you." And we had a little moment of exchange, and he said, "Are you ready to go?" And I was like, yes, let's go. There was no fear. I didn't know where we were going, but I knew that wherever we were going, it was going to be amazing. Yes. And I was like starting to get up from the table, and he was like, hold on a second. I mean, I feel back. I say I feel back into the experience because it's right there. It's just right there. And it happened. Okay. So I was 20, and let's see, it was 31 years ago. So, you can do the math. Yeah. It's a long time ago, but I was ready to go. And he said, "Hold on, I want you to talk to somebody." And this piece to the experience puzzled me for the longest time. But after doing more of my own spiritual growth, I realized and understood what happened. But I was married at the time. I was married very young. And my now ex-husband, then husband, showed up at the picnic table. And the three of us were sitting there in what seemed to be physical form. There was really no difference between this world, right, and where I was. He said to me, my husband at the time looked at me and was like, "You can't go. We have a lot to do, and there's kids and there's things." And I just remember listening very kindly to his story, and then I said, "Okay, but I'm going to go now." And so I was like, I got up and I said, "I'm ready to go. Let's go. Let's do this thing." I just could not get
You're
there
like,
fast enough.
Jesus, take me home.
Pretty much, yes, I know. Exactly. And I was like, you know that song, Jesus Take the Wheel? I just love this. I love that song. It's a catch up.
Exactly.
I always think that you don't need to take the wheel, just take me home. So we got up, or I got up, and the second I was like, I heard what I needed to hear. I'm getting up now. Everything changed, and I lost my physical body form. And all of a sudden, everything turned into what's like a pinpoint of light, consciousness, light. But I was not afraid. It was so natural. And the peace that I had experienced in the picnic table moment amplified by even more than you could even imagine. This peace and this sense of home and this sense of knowing and this sense of I can take a breath. And I didn't even need to take a breath because I didn't have physical form anymore, but it was just this innate knowing. And I started drifting towards this light. And it just got brighter and brighter and brighter. And I remember just thinking, here we go. And I was so excited. And then I was stopped by this being. I say being because I don't know if it was a man, a woman, who it was. It was just a silhouetted form that took some semblance of a human shape, but I couldn't quite tell. And they said through thought form at that point, "It's not your time." And I remember thinking, Chrissy, if I had hands and legs and a full physical body, I would have pushed that being out of my way and just kept going. And I was like, "No, it is my time. It is my time." And so I did not want to go back. Exactly. I was like, out of my way. Um, and so I just started drifting backwards away from the light. And then the next thing I know, I take this breath that if I would liken it to when we took our first breath as a baby. It felt like my very first breath in this new body, though it was my body. And all of a sudden pain hit, fear hit, all the earthly things, right? And I was so angry. I was not happy. The paramedic that was standing over me, poor guy, all I could mutter out is why, And then the whole conversation. But yeah, it was a rough transition back into my physical body.
That's fascinating, number one. Do you feel like post that experience that you have much less of a fear of death? Like you just don't fear it anymore. And you know that you're not wishing it. I'm not saying you're wishing death, but you now know it gave you great comfort that when you pass on, you're going to be your conscious self, and B, you're going to see your mother again. You're going to see other loved ones again. And how has that changed the way you walk in the world?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And it has, like, it's funny because I've seen therapists on and off my entire life, and we talk a lot about this stuff because, like you said, I'm not suicidal. I have no desire to hurt myself, but certainly there are moments where I'm like, man, yeah, I could go. I've had, let's see, how many, I've had about, well, 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 surgeries. And every surgery I'm like,
Could be my time. Don't know.
I'm more yeah, exactly. I'm more afraid to come out of the surgery, like when I'm going to face that. So yeah, I definitely get excited thinking about what is there waiting for us. And also, as I've gotten older, I've come to realize truly our life here that it is a gift, and that what we are here to do is to learn how to integrate every aspect of ourselves. And so that is key. I know that once I fully learned how to integrate that, and it'll probably be my time. I think that's my story. I don't know if that's everybody's story, but that's mine.
I agree. I feel like since I've stepped on my path, number one, I do have a lot less fear in my life. I even have a lot less fear of dying, even though I haven't had an experience. I I have I have listened to quite a few of those stories, and they ring true to me every time. And it gives me a deep sense of calm, knowing that my consciousness is going to live on after this body expires, and that I should calm down, have less fear, and understand that life is but a dream, and you are going to wake up and be back home, and it is going to, apparently it's supposed to feel like that feels like the real you, and this is going to feel much more like a dream scenario, and that is who you are. Your true inner being self is your being of light, your point of light. That is your essence. This bag of meat that we walk around in is going to get old and die, and we will not, So tell me about what you do now for a living, how you help people. I know you're a certified hypnotherapist, a yogi, a spiritual healer. Tell me some of the things that you do to help people progress on their journey in life.
Yeah, let's see, lots of different things. Where do I start? I do, I do have a studio here in Phoenix where I live, and I do see private clients where I do everything from traditional Reiki to, if clients want to dig a little deeper, we do hypno Reiki. So I've incorporated a little bit of hypnosis with Reiki and a few other modalities to really get down into the deeper aspects.
What does a hypno Reiki session look like? What would one experience with that? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So like traditional Reiki, I have my clients lay on a table, on a bed, the massage table, fully clothed, and then prep them up, comfy, cozy. Prior to that, though, we'll have a little consultation to talk about goals, aspects, and things that they want to achieve. If there's chronic illness, what that looks like. If there's any fears, we kind of dig deeper into a little bit of what the mindscape is telling us, the stories that the mind is telling us. And then I'll, I'll take a person to a very light hypnotic induction on the table. And then sort of everybody's unique. So there's not two that are exactly alike. The aspect of the session that is identical is getting everybody into that light hypnotic induction. And then from there, depending on where each person's at in their journey, I'll kind of prompt a guided experience, visualizations, negative thoughts with more positive thoughts, things like that, while also doing Reiki and moving out the energetic body. And I do use sound therapy, binaural beats, and crystal singing bowls. I have those. I like to integrate everything that I can to get the most powerful sessions. So, yeah.
How can people, are you mainly in-house, or you do anything online? Are you Phoenix based, or you do online sessions at all, or how do you work normally?
Yeah. So for that specifically, it is Phoenix based. I do offer what I call soul readings or sometimes intuitive life coaching. I really prefer to empower people to connect with their own intuitive abilities. I believe we all have these abilities. So I will do a session. I can do a session via Zoom or FaceTime or phone. And I can do a more traditional reading if people prefer, connect with loved ones, sometimes through Reiki. Loved ones will come through, but also through just doing a traditional session or reading. Even online, loved ones can come through. Animals, all different. Anybody on the other side that's waiting to have a message, if they're there and the person I'm reading for is open, I can share. And so that's one aspect. And then I am working on creating a meditation series for anybody who wants to delve deeper into meditation, because I'm a big believer, and this is what I teach when I help empower others, is that we can connect into our psychic senses and clear out a lot of the mind clutter through meditation. That's number one for me.
I think meditation is one of the most important tools that we have available to us that's free, that and I'm speaking from somebody that I really have to become more disciplined at it, because it's something that I should do every day, and I probably do it once a week. So one of my 2024 goals is to do it more, because I'm able to stay focused longer and longer all the time. And I think it's just something that you need to practice.
Yeah.
Practicing that is going to give you the most bang for your buck in life. If you can really get into a good meditation practice, the doors are just going to swing wide open for you.
Yeah, and it's so true. And it doesn't mean that you have to sit in meditation for 45 minutes, even just a 5-minute, 2-minute, 3, everybody's a little different. And for me, what helped me is I thought, I was given options. Well, you can take a pill, or you can meditate.
Yeah.
Anxiety or calm, whatever. I'm going to do that because it's free. Like you said,
the best thing you really can do for yourself, I think, is meditation.
Yeah, it happens.
It is. So do you have any clients that kind of struggle with coming to you for things because they are very attached to their religion, and spiritual mediumship and stuff like that is kind of frowned upon in traditional mainstream, even though there's more and more science and studies coming out to support the fact that we are much more energetic beings than we are material beings. So have you come across a lot of any kind of pushback from people or clients or anything, or?
Yeah, that's it. That is a really good question. And so let me just preface with, I am an incredibly inclusive person. And gay, and I support LGBTQIA plus 100%. So, I have experienced a lot of pushback just in my lifetime. Even when I was on the Queen Mary, I had death threats. I had stalkers. I used to have posters of my face on the ship and 666 written across my forehead, and and then on the flip side, I've had believers call me a charlatan. Like, the thing is that I have learned is I just stand true in what I know, and I keep vibrating at a level that feels my highest and best good. And then the right clients come. And I have a client today that is Christian. She goes to church every Sunday and prays and believes in all that. And she's the first person that is like, no, this stuff is real. Like she's been standing up for me for a very long time, and it's really sweet. And so, we're people and we're flawed. And I get that. So the right people come to me at the right time.
I believe that. And I also believe that at the end of the day, you're vibrating in a way that the people that are on your wavelength are going to come to you. It's just going to be a natural attraction as far as that goes. Well, we're coming up on an hour. We're just a few minutes away. Do you want to tell people how they can reach you if they want to reach out for any kind of spiritual guidance from you? Are you on Instagram? Do you have a website?
Yeah. So if anybody would like to stay in touch with me, there's a couple different ways. I do have a website, and it's as simple as erikafrost.com. So if you can remember my name, you'll find me there. And then I have Instagram. It's just at Erika Frost Official. I think when I set up Erika Frost Instagram, someone else had taken it, so we had to put official at the end. That's kind of a funny name, but that's how you can get in touch with me. And then same thing, I have a Facebook, same handle.
I love that. I thank you for your time, Erika. Really, thank you for taking the opportunity to speak with me. I think you have an amazing story, and I'd like to bring you on again, and we can talk about other things, all things spiritual. You were a great interview. I loved it.
Oh, thank you so much. It was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. And anytime, yes, I'd love to come back.
On that note, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to wrap it up there, and we will see you on the next episode of Fate. Until then, journey well. Take care, guys. Alrighty, that was a wrap on episode 4. Episode 4 already. Can you believe it? That was Erika Frost. I will leave her information in the show notes. Please do reach out to her if you're looking for any kind of spiritual guidance, assistance, healing. She can help you. She is a light, and I promise you, you will not regret seeking her help and guiding you on your journey. So I'll leave her information in the show notes. Next week, I have a pretty amazing story. I have Alicia Marlowe on next week. That'll be episode 5, Light Alchemy with Alicia. Do you like that? Very creative, my little names of the episodes. It's one of my favorite things. Anyways, Alicia Marlowe, she has a light that can give you a DMT effect without actually having to take the DMT. And she travels around the country with it. And people have a mystical, spiritual experience sitting in front of that light, 15 minutes, 30 minutes. She has an amazing story. She is on her own spiritual journey, had her own near-death experience that is transitional and impactful. And I loved having her on. So that'll be next week. I hope you guys are enjoying the show and you're going to continue to journey on with me. You can follow me at F.A.T.E Podcast on Instagram. It's F.A.T.E podcast on Instagram. My podcast is on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel. It's at F.A.T.E, F.A.T.E. Please like, subscribe, follow, share, do it all, please. If you really want to give me some encouragement, I am on Venmo. It's at Christy-Busby. Give me a little tip, a little encouragement. I'd love the support. I have been getting a lot of great feedback so far, and it's given me all kinds of hope and inspiration to continue on. So here we go. Next week, Alicia Marlowe, DMT light therapy. Tune in. I can't wait to bring it to you. Until then, guys, journey well. See you then. Bye.